6:30 p.m. in Cameroon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being a part of today's edition of Prime News, coming to you live from Douala, Cameroon's economic capital. My name is Fon Quinta. Begin today's edition of Prime News in the Central region, where new guidelines regarding the annual Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca, which was halted as a result of COVID-19, has been dished out by Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, Akenji. This was during a meeting in Yaoundé with the chairperson of the Hajj Commission and some Muslim faithfuls. Our Central Regional correspondent, Kodedlum, completes the story.
4,000 pilgrims are expected to take part in the 2022 Hajj in the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. According to Saudi authorities, only 1 million pilgrims are expected to make the journey so as to comply with strict measures against COVID-19. Faithfuls from 65 years old are banned from taking part, while vaccinations against COVID-19 and tests of less than 72 hours and a medical certificate are mandatory for those who will be venturing on the Hajj pilgrim this year. These were the practical guidelines unveiled in a meeting in Yaoundé, chaired by Minister Paul Akenji of Territorial Administration.
Out of the 1 million pilgrims, we have 15% of 150,000, 100,000 from Africa, and 750,000, I can say, who will come from the other countries. We have to abide by the rules and regulations. The group leaders have a huge responsibility to educate the pilgrims. But at times it's important to have a medical certificate. So if you have any health challenges with a medical certificate, they cannot exactly how to attend to you. For instance, if you have diabetes, you know that your treatment is always very special, or hypertension or anything of the sort. The Hajj will be more expensive. For restrictions, those who are above 65 years cannot do the pilgrimage again. Because the idea is that for those who have 65 years, we think that they have gone to Saudi Arabia once, twice, or at least twice or three, or twice. So now you should give the opportunity to those who have not had the privilege of going to Saudi Arabia.
The Minak boss, who doubled as the president of the National Commission of the Hajj, also made mention that the pilgrims from Cameroon will travel via the Garoua and Yaoundé Singmale International Airports, with the first flight to take off on the 26th of June.
100 from 1 million from the world traveling to Saudi Arabia, 100,000 from Africa, and about 4,300 from Cameroon. We have 4,320 pilgrims living in Cameroon. There's around 4,200 pilgrims.
He equally called on the Muslim leaders to select responsible persons and the respect of COVID-19 restrictions by group leaders, while respecting the number of pilgrims in a room, which is maximum 5 and no more 10 like in previous years. The Minak boss reiterated on scam, as some people will take money for 2022 and 2023 on the pretext that the Muslims who cannot make it this year will travel next year.
From the Central region, we take you to the Southwest region, where internally displaced persons, persons living with disability, and other vulnerable persons living in Kumba 3 subdivision have benefited food items and others from the Kumba 3 Council. The distribution took place at the council premises, as Tamfu Sudan tells us.
Over 23 internally displaced persons, persons living with disabilities, and other vulnerable people in Kumba 3 subdivision have received food items, household items, and others from the Kumba 3 Council worth over 2.5 million francs CFA. The ceremony to present these items to the needy took place on Saturday, the 21st of May 2022 at the Kumba 3 Council Hall, chaired by the Mayor of the Council, Dr. Mukwele Isaac Ngoba.
For thank government very much, especially the Ministry of Social Affairs, for always think of Kumba 3 when it comes to the support to our vulnerable population.
Some received items like rice, maggi, palm oil, vegetable oil, spaghetti, and other assorted food items. Talking to the media, Dr. Mukwele Isaac Nguba said it was part of the council's responsibility to assist the needy and improve on the living standard of all.
We have a large population of IDPs, we have handicapped, we have many vulnerable population. So we thought it wise that within the means that was made available for us, we can get people to at least feed themselves for a few days. Following the amount that we had as well, we decided to buy some.
Celebrations in some parts of the crisis-hit southwest region of Cameroon. We take you to Moyoka subdivision, where celebrations went hitch-free despite threats and calls from separatist fighters to boycott the day Moki Regan. With details.
The streets were all dry and quite as scanty in Moyoka subdivision on Friday, May 20th, 2022. Threat and calls to boycott the National Day celebration from separatist fighter created some fear to the population of Moyoka subdivision, one of the towns that has greatly been affected by the 5 years plus Anglophone crisis. At the Moyoka grandstand, militants of the CPDM party championed the celebration with their session president, Honorable Finley Stanley, setting the pace. To the divisional officer for Moyoka subdivision, it is an achievement to the subdivision.
The day has been celebrated, all of us friends.
Indifferent in the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the unity of Cameroon. I extend the gratitude to the head of state for having ruled this nation, for having maintained Cameroon as an indivisible nation for all this while. The Moyoka people extend their gratitude to him and extend their support to him and say, President Paul Biya, we are grateful for having maintained our unity despite our diversity in our different culture.
The commemoration in Moyoka subdivision ended with family photograph as another rendezvous has been booked for next year.
In Tiko subdivision, the population came out to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the unitary state of Cameroon, despite calls for boycott. Moki Regan once again.
Pupils, students, cultural association and party officials and the forces of law and order came out at mass at the Tiko Upper Costain Grandstand celebration of the 50th anniversary of the unitary state of Cameroon. After the singing of the national anthem, it was the award of medal to some meritorious Cameroonian in the name of the President of the Republic.
In the name of the President of the Republic and by rest of the powers conferred on us, we make unite the Cameroon order of merit.
Followed by march past with the military taking the lead, pupils, students, political parties, social group, host of motorbike riders under the watchful eyes of the divisional officer for Tiko subdivision, Vorbu Kamekawa Armstrong.
The message is that we are all Cameroonians and we need to come together as one to forge ahead our national unity, to preserve all of what we have as our cultural heritage. And this cultural heritage is our nation, Cameroon, which belongs to all of us. And that is exactly what we have been celebrating today in this 50th edition. I think we have all admired the beautiful parade, both of the military and the civilians.
The population in Tiko subdivision still live in hope that the celebration will help foster the sense of peace and patriotism among the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon.
Now, as of March 2022, Cameroon's public debt amounts to over 11 billion francs CFA. The figures were revealed yesterday by the General Manager of the Autonomous Depreciation Fund, Cynthia Azanothosos.
This debt of 11,456 billion francs CFA represents 45.5% of the gross domestic product, GDP, increased by 0.8% compared to the previous quarter and 7.4% in the annual sliding. This information was revealed by the Director General of the Autonomous Depreciation Fund on Monday, 23rd of May, 2022. According to Richard Evina Obam, the direct debt of the central administration amounts 10,593 billion francs CFA, or 41.6% of GDP. It increased by 1.0% compared to an anterior quarter and from 8.2% in the annual sliding. This outstanding debt from external creditors valued at 72.1% and debt from domestic donors. To this, it will be necessary to include the remains to be paid, which dates from more than 3 months. The director of the Autonomous Depreciation Fund continued by giving an estimate of the direct debt of public enterprises at the end of March 2022. According to Richard Evina Obam, the increase in the debt of the state of Cameroon finds its explanation in the commitment of Cameroon and the realization of infrastructural sites since 2010. To carry out this project, which aimed for the economic development of Cameroon, the government has chosen to use public debt.
A family in Logwe, Marua, Far North region of Cameroon, are still in shock following the death of 2 of theirs, a 32-year-old lady and her 2-year-old child, trapped in wild flames in their house. Catherine Kongwe completes the story.
A pregnant woman and her daughter have died in a fire incident which occurred in Logo, Dubai, a locality in the city of Marua, in the Far North region of Cameroon. The incident reportedly took place at about 3 p.m. after a violent fire broke out in a family home in the Lugo, Dubai neighborhood. Alerted by neighbors, the inhabitants of the area mobilized to help. Despite the amount of water and sand gathered by the inhabitants to put an end to the raging fire, the population was still unable to put the fire under control. The inhabitants were therefore left with no option but to appeal to the unit of firefighters since lives were at stake. Upon the arrival of the firefighters, the fire had already attacked neighboring premises, although the inhabitants of the apartments were able to escape. However, a 32-year-old alongside her 2-year-old daughter remained trapped in the flames. After 2 hours, the fire was brought under control, and 20 minutes later, the body of the victim and her 2-year-old daughter were discovered burnt to the last degree. Huge material damages were caused by the disaster, while the head of the family struck by this pain remain inconsolable. Investigations are opened by the police of the neighborhood, who arrived at the scene later.
Now, Cameroon intends to obtain 1,264 billion francs CFA from investors to construct the Yaoundé Ring Road, according to the Minister of Economic Planning and Regional Development. This is also to develop the 4 urban hubs linked to either. Reporter Emanuela Moni has details.
Total amount 794 billion will be spent on the bypass and 88 billion CFA francs on compensation and population displacement, and 470 billion on the development of the capital's 4 urban hubs, and 20 billion on compensation and relocation. The Yaoundé Ring Road project is one of the top goals in the Central African region's EU-backed transport development plan. It was chosen as one of the projects that could benefit from blending financing on January 20th, 2022 during the presentation of the report of the EU Commission's Technical Assistance Mission to the CEMAC and ECAS nations in a bid to identify regional and national infrastructure projects that may benefit from this funding. Committed to COWI and EcoRise Consortium, the Yaoundé Ring Road project, according to the Technical Assistance Mission, comprises the construction of over 44 kilometers of roads that will boost the flow of trade between Cameroon the Central African Republic, and Chad. Also, the construction of the Yaoundé-Douala Expressway advances, as well as construction of road toll booths. Through this road, vehicles driving along the Douala-N'Djamena and Douala-Bangui corridors will be able to avoid traffic jams and the inconveniences when traversing downtown Yaoundé. Studies have already been completed for this road according to the documentation of the aforementioned Technical Assistance Mission, and 495 billion CFA francs finance in blending mode is being raised at the moment. The new terminal for construction in the Douala port is also one of the roads. In-depth technical studies carried out by the consultancy firm Sirasas between 2019 and 2021 show that only phase 1 of the entire Yaoundé Ring Road project has been identified for this financing approach. This phase covers the 32-kilometer Nkongbiem-Nkoabang section and the 10.3-kilometer Minkwa-Meyos-Nkongbiem section. The government of Cameroon is also raising 1,000 billion for the construction of the Kumba-Ekondo Titi Road.
Photography in Kribi is not the same as it used to be before. We are going through tough times with the advent of Android phones and all the rest. People come here with their Android phones and it slows down the business. We are just managing on a 1,000 to 2,000 revenue a day.
Le matin, on rentre avec 1 000 francs, 2,500 pour soutenir la famille.
In the face of these persistent challenges, populations have turned to be minimal in their expectations while waiting on the government for help, this in a bid to maintain their standard of living.
Cameroon has begun training and integrating youngsters into the firefighting unit as a way of bracing them up with defense skills during emergencies. As the country celebrated its 50th anniversary as a unitary state, Dolly Gonde caught up with one of the young cadets who shares his experience. Her report.
The firefighting unit is one of those segments in the Defense and Security Corps which can be termed most daring and dangerous, as it doesn't just warrant manpower, but above all bravery. However, this young cadet can be said to have broken the myths, as he now shares his experience in the workforce, which he says has been motivated by his desire to help people in danger.
I'm a young firefighter from Casablanca. Started the training every Saturday or so. Because I like helping people. I like taking care of people. And when people are in danger, I like to rescue them.
Barely 12 years of age, Johan is already juggling between work and studies. How he makes that a reality, he says he undergoes his training as a firefighter during the holiday period and can be called up during school hours to handle emergency cases, even from within the school milieu. Nonetheless, this is what he's been able to learn so far.
When people are thinking that's firefighter, just off fire. So you rescue people, you take care of people. When people are wounded, like in the war, when there's people that are wounded, they take them to the firefighter for hospital to put them in health.
Given the risks involved in the rescuing unit, one will imagine at first thought that Johan's parents would be the first limiting factor, but his confessions prove all assumptions wrong.
My parents encourage me every day. Sometimes when I'm late, it's my mother that push me that go. Sometimes I don't even want to go. My mother that said go, if not go. Every holidays.
Digging further, Johan says the most interesting aspect of his job is the jubilation that comes after a successful rescue mission.
Last time there was fire in Manchester, I was there. The most interesting thing is where we are enjoying ourselves. Sometimes when we finish to do a hard thing like this, we start singing songs, clap your hands, and we are happy, very happy.
Like it is said, make hay while the sun shines. Johan is undoubtedly a practitioner to this phrase.
Now, 2 employees of Doctors Without Borders who were arrested and detained in Boya, southwest region of Cameroon, suspected of complicity with separatist fighters, have been released after 5 months in detention. Aileen Sama completes the story.
The international non-governmental organization Doctors Without Borders on Monday, May 23, 2022, announced that 2 employees of the prestigious non-governmental organization arrested by law enforcement officers while carrying out their job in Boya, the restive southwest region, have been released after 5 months in detention. Note that the Cameroonian justice suspected the 2 of complicity with the English-speaking separatists after having taken care of a patient wounded by bullets. The 2 whose names were withheld were released on bail. Meanwhile, 2 other workers of Doctors Without Borders arrested few weeks later in the same region and for the same reason are still in detention. It is worth recalling that the non-governmental organization Doctors Without Borders had earlier announced the suspension of its activities in the English-speaking southwest region of Cameroon because of these 2 arrests. However, the head of operations for the non-governmental organization in Central Africa, Silver Grooks, reacting to the release of the 2, said the organization is happy for their colleagues who found themselves free today, reuniting with their families, especially since one of the 2 is 7.5 months heavy with pregnancy and needed medical attention for her child. Considering that it was a provisional release, it is uncertain if they will have criminal charges brought against them or if these charges will be dismissed, he said. He added that the NGO Doctors Without Borders is also worried about their 2 other colleagues who are still in detention for more charges for having done their job and who only care for the Cameroonian population. Note here that the security crisis in the 2 English-speaking regions of the country has lasted 6 years, and Doctors Without Borders provided free care to the population well beyond war wounds. For the record, 165,000 consultations were carried out, including more than 42,000 for children under the age of 5.
And Forba University Institute over the weekend graduated its first batch of the School to Work Graduate Employment Program, an initiative intended to prepare fresh graduates for the job market, as Joy Ngong tells us.
Employment is today still the main challenge faced by Cameroonian youths. Even after graduation, a degree holder is not certain of finding the right job placement. In a bid to solve this problem, a school-to-work graduate employment program was introduced by the management of Forba University, an initiative to better prepare fresh graduates for the professional world.
It was my idea of contributing to fighting unemployment in Cameroon. It's a program that basically does one thing: take fresh graduates, prepare them for the job market, and put them there. So that's what we're doing. And today we held our first ever graduation ceremony. We placed many Cameroonians after their training. Today we had a handful who are still around us.
Conceived since 2016, the School-to-Work Graduate Employment Program equips young graduates with skills that will enhance their productivity and efficiency in the job market.
I would like to congratulate Fela for this wonderful initiative, making sure that our graduates are equipped with soft skills and that will help them to integrate the professional world. And Yvette Africa has been a partner. We took 2 students, 2 graduates, and we are very satisfied.
The first ever graduates under the School-to-Work program are grateful for the skills they have acquired and believe it will help them in the professional world.
The School-to-Work program is a program that allows students to gain experience, skills, and attitude that is going to help them to further their career and get that job. So this is our first graduation ceremony, and I'd like to say thank you very much to University.
The organizers of the School-to-Work program are confident with its outcome, and the graduates will do just fine in their respective companies.
That report ends today's edition of Prime News on My Media Prime Television. Prime comes up next with Kum Leonard and his team. My name is Fonquinta. Good night.